991 8031. And now on BBC Two, it's time for cartoon fun with the Brollys.
Rainbows climb, clouds drift by, Brollys fly through a magic sky. Is it real? Are they dreams? Nothing appears to be what it seems. Then far away I can hear a voice in the weather house call out a name. Mr. Brolly, it's time for the rain.
Harry was trying to go to sleep, but no sooner had he closed his eyes than he opened them again. Tucked up beside Harry in bed were his toys, Elephant and Hippo. Snake, as always, lay on the rug by the door, and Bird was perched on the chest of drawers. Harry stared down at his patchwork quilt. It was different from other quilts. Instead of flowery scraps of material, it was made of little embroidered pictures of rainbows, stars and planets, clouds, and great flashes of lightning in a dark and stormy sky. It had been made a long, long time ago. On the wall hung Harry's weather house. If the day was going to be fine and sunny, Mrs. Brolly came to her door. If the day was going to be wet and cloudy, Mr. Brolly came out. But of course, they never came out together, for it is impossible for a day to be both wet and dry at the same time. But what would happen if they both came out together? Wondered Harry, and he sat up and stared at the weather house. As he stared, the doors seemed to grow larger. His bed grew smaller, and he found himself at the entrance of the weather house. A light was shining from the door, through which Harry could see Mr. Brolly no longer fixed to his wooden stand, but moving freely about the room. For days and days, the sky had been grey. Even in the weather house, it was just the same. Mrs. Brolly was nowhere to be seen, and Mr. Brolly dozed in his chair. Even Wilkins seemed drowsy. And as for Little Cloud, he just handed Harry an unlit thunderbolt. At that moment, Mrs. Brolly appeared. "I'm tired of all this greyness," she said, "and Brolly won't do anything about it. He just sits there, snoring. What I want," she went on, pressing a button on the computer, "is colour, music, and warmth. I want to go on holiday." "I know just the place," said the computer, and it put up on its screen a picture of a Mexican village. The village stood beside a beautiful lake, on which there was an island with a ruined fort. "We shall go at once," said Mrs. Brolly, and immediately her trunk appeared. Outside in the garden, Harry and Mrs. Brolly opened their umbrellas and drifted up. The trunk floated behind them. The sky had brightened, and they had reached the edge of the land. Over the shining sea they went. In the control room, the little cloud said, "Pip." The smiling face of the computer appeared. "Oh, it's you," it said. "What do you want?" "Please, sir," said Wilkins, "we want to go on holiday too." "And why not?" said the computer. "Off you go." Wilkins rose into the air at once, but the little cloud stayed where he was. Plop! "Please, sir," said Wilkins, "he wants a trunk, like Harry and Mrs. Brolly." And what would a small cloud have to pack in a trunk? Asked the computer. Bumpers, said the little cloud angrily. He means thunderbolts, said Wilkins. He calls them thunders, only it comes out bumpers. I see, said the computer, and at once a small trunk appeared. It was a nice little trunk, but it jiggled about a lot, being full, as it was, of bumpers. Wilkins and the little cloud set off happily for Mexico, followed by their trunk. Adios, said the computer as they went. Then it sang loudly, You too can go to Mexico, land of sunshine and song. What? Said Mr. Brolly. Who's gone to Mexico? What? Harry and Mrs. Brolly were floating over the ocean. Behind them came the trunk, humming a song and playing a little Mexican air. Mrs. Brolly, said Harry. There was Wilkins and the little cloud following as fast as they could, both sitting on the trunk to keep the lid on the lively bumpers. In the bathroom, Mr. Brolly was standing before the mirror, trying on a wonderful sombrero. He tried it tilted to the left, and then to the right, and then he set it quite straight on his head and grew himself a long black moustache. Oh, good heavens, he said, astounded by his appearance, which was, to say the least, striking. Harry, Mrs. Brolly, the little cloud and Wilkins came down by the side of the beautiful lake. We must have our photograph taken, said Mrs. Brolly. All travellers have their photographs taken. The lid of the trunk opened, and out stepped a long-legged camera. The travellers stood in a group and smiled. Then they all moved a little to the right, and then they moved a little to the left, and then the photograph was taken, and the party set off, with the trunks bobbing behind. But they forgot their umbrellas and left them hanging from the signpost which pointed the way to the ruined fort.